WWE cuts are coming next month as the UFC merger completes. Plus, a Raw Star is planning an in-ring return. And the real reason for a Raw Star's injury angle. It's all in the wrestling news right now. So it was the night after WrestleMania that the announcement came down that WWE and UFC were merging to form Endeavor. And we were all half asleep because we spent all week watching the wrestling.
Yes.
Like numerous phone calls were had, numerous people running into the flipping office. It was a time, wasn't it?
It was a great time.
It was a great, well planned on that one, lads.
God, it was a good time.
Appreciate that. So it was during the quarter two earnings for Endeavor that they gave us an update on the acquisition of WWE, and it's expected to close and complete mid to late September. And then Endeavor will merge WWE and UFC into one big public company called TKO Group Holdings Incorporated. But with that will come some change.
Yes, Brandon Thurston reported on the phone call to investors that Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel noted that there were plans on making cost savings and synergies happening immediately upon the deal closing. So in the next, if this goes according to schedule, in the next month and a half or so, we could potentially see some big changes. And shout out to Brandon Thurston as well of WrestleNomics. He does wonderful work.
He really, really does.
Simplifying all the business stuff.
Cuts through all the meat and all that. Synergies. The description that we used upstairs for this was WWE getting Swindon branched.
Right, exactly. So in the UK version of The Office, the original version of The Office, it's focused on the Slough branch of a paper merchants. And then you've got the Swindon branch, and because of downsizing, the two branches are going to merge. And people's jobs may be at risk here, which is a tremendous shame. We always hate when this sort of thing happens in WWE. But in this case, it's almost, I think even a bit more, I don't know if sad is the right word, but like it's a bit more... you've got to be more aware of it because apparently this may not affect the talent roster this time.
No, Fightful Select, a few other places saying that the talent haven't heard anything regarding cuts to the roster. And I don't think, and from what we gather, the roster isn't going to be affected by this. This is all going to be internal cuts. This is going to be merging of departments and combining efforts, essentially.
So I guess what I was trying to say there is it might even be cuts that we don't notice by watching the product on screen, which can make it, I guess, even more effective when you realize, oh man, someone's just lost their job. And we can't even kick up a fuss about it. We don't know about it.
Yeah,
it could be quite a sad time. Hopefully these cuts are kept to the absolute minimum as we go ahead.
Yeah, it's every time it happens with a merger like this, you see it sucks, and you just keep on keeping on. Meanwhile, Carmella's given us an update, speaking of the roster, somebody we haven't seen in a while, about when she's coming back. Obviously, she's expecting her child with Corey Graves. What's she been saying to People magazine?
As she said to them, I for sure plan to come back. I think it's important to show you can have a baby and still have a career, especially a very physical one at that, but I'm not going to rush. And who could blame her for not rushing?
I mean, there's been a few cases. Obviously, Becky Lynch is the one that springs to mind recently. Somebody who went and became a mum and has come back and been on better form than ever.
She's been fantastic.
She has been incredible.
I don't see why Carmella couldn't do the same. And fair play to her. It'll be nice to see Carmella back. I think she's one of the great underrated parts of that women's division, whether it's in the ring or as like an on-mic persona as well. I think she really gives it her all each and every time. And I remember first appreciating Carmella when it was the first ever few women's Money in the Bank ladder matches, and she was one of the ones who took to it the most naturally, I think, not just because she won, but you'd see certain moments in the match. She was, weirdly to me, as somebody who hates heights, she was so comfortable up there, and you just saw her doing really well. So I think she's a valuable asset, often an overlooked one in the women's division.
And we send her our best as well. The finale of the most recent season of Dark Side of the Ring took place last night, and it led to hashtag Dark Side of the Ring and Marty Jannetty trending on Twitter. So I wanted to talk about this.
Yes.
So the episode, and you said this upstairs, Jack, it kind of feels like an end of school party for Dark Side of the Ring.
They had their 40th episode celebration entitled The World According to Marty Jannetty, and basically it featured Marty Jannetty, one half of the Rockers and former IC champion, I believe, in his own right as well, sharing tales from his years in wrestling. years of wrestling and partying as well.
Now, as we know from following Marty on the Facebook, he's prone to a story.
Yeah.
He's prone to a tale or two. Some of the stuff that went down on this one, I wanted to go through it. So he talks about blowing up a science lab when he was at school, mixing together two chemicals which the teacher told him not to do. One of his classmates was knocked several feet back and a window was blown out by the chemical reaction he caused.
Right, legit. He said, should we go back to back on these stories?
I think we should, sir, because these are fantastic.
He said why have you given me this one? He said he received freebies in inverted commas from ladies of the night when he was 13 years old.
Guess who wrote that?
And he was once complimented on the ladies he had on his arm by Donald Trump. Brilliant. Good. Great. Your turn, Tom.
He attended an addiction group for people who can't stop a bit of How Was Your Father? And he ended up dating his counsellor.
No, you didn't, Marty. It's not true, is it?
Oh my.
Marty says bad things happen to him because he's GAT, which stands for God's Amusement Toy. And when God gets bored, he just causes trouble for old Marty Jannetty.
And there's a few people in there when Marty talked about that. Al Snow was like, he just says that because he just doesn't want to take responsibility for it. Now, they go into detail on the story of Chuck Austin, who was an enhancement talent that had his neck broken in 1990. Marty gave him a rocket dropper, but Chuck didn't quite know how to take the rocket dropper, so like his neck just spikes on the ground. It's horrible. Now, Chuck sues the WWF and Marty Jannetty, and he wins $24 million, and it's later reset to $10 million. $500,000 of that comes out of Marty's royalties because he was also named in the suit, and he was found by the court like 5% accountable. So $500,000 came out of his action figure toys. It's God's amusement toy, isn't it? Just what happens.
He details, this one's a bit more pertinent to wrestling folklore, I think, especially WWF back in the day. He details an intense fight in a hotel between himself and tag partner Shawn Michaels. It's discussed in great detail on the episode, leading to Vince McMahon breaking up the tag team and strapping the proverbial rocket to Shawn Michaels. And he became the Michaels of the team.
And as opposed to the Marty Jannetty of the team. Yeah. At one point in that fight, they even say that Marty got thrown through a window. So I wonder whether there was anything to lead into
I see.
The Marty Jannetty's issue with drugs and such comes up throughout the episode, and near the end they dive into his Facebook posts over the last few years. There was several stories about him fathering lots of children from different mothers, which he says was his Facebook being hacked. There's one where he talks about being assaulted as a teenager while working as a bowling alley and then making the guy disappear, and he says it was a storyline to get back into wrestling.
That was a storyline.
But Dark Side of the Ring still took him to the bowling alley to kind of talk about like how you would have done it, and they sort of reenact how it would have happened if it was a real story.
That's right.
It was their end of year party.
I don't know what to make of that last one, whether that was true or not, because he's saying that it wasn't true. He's admitting that, but he's kind of also going, but maybe. Well, what am I meant to think there as the viewer? I've been challenged by Dark Side of the Ring on a level I did not expect to.
Do watch that episode.
Oh, God, yes.
But watch it with a bucket of salt and throw it over your shoulder, and then sometimes in your eyes, just in case. Now, we saw Sami Zayn get beaten up backstage on Raw. There's a reason for that, wasn't there?
Yes, he was attacked by JD McDonough, but the attack was apparently to cover for a bursa sac injury. Now, I Googled that when I read this, because I thought, I wasn't quite sure what a bursa sac injury was. Apparently, a bursa sac refers to like fluid in the body that cushions like certain joints in between different parts of your body. So that's something you probably don't want to get in.
I had it back in 2016. I banged my elbow, and I watched this over like a day. My elbow just went out about here. And you can't, they recommend don't burst it because that's the worst thing to do. So I had to go and buy like an elbow pad. Did you spend the week walking with an elbow pad?
Did it heal itself?
Yeah, it all heals itself. It all goes.
It sounds painful.
It's painful. It's like very tender. So that's why you put a pad on it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I felt like a wrestler all week. It was brilliant.
And then when it was healed, you did the people's elbow. Yeah, come on.
Threw it off at the doctor. Have that. Now, Kevin Owens got attacked in a recent backstage storyline. Backstage reason as well for a storyline. He said when the decision was made to not have Sami and Kevin defend the tag titles at SummerSlam, they said, well, this is a good opportunity to take some time off for Kev, who suffered injuries as well. So it's really giving the tag champs a little bit of respite without taking the belts off them.
Yeah, definitely with that Kevin Owens one, Melter pointing out that was going to get them a bit of rest, but was only supposed to be a short period of rest, which is why they didn't take the belts off them or anything like that. Now, with this Sami Zayn injury, is that added on to the time taken off for the storyline Kevin Owens attack? Is this all going to add up to like too long for the champions to be not wrestling? Are they going to perhaps take the belts off them? I guess it all depends on how quickly Sami can get back to action, I suppose.
It does, yeah. I mean, I would be nice to see something in a few weeks' time where you kind of pay off Owens and Zayn versus the Judgment Day, because that's kind of where all this is floating around. But obviously do it when they're healthy. There's no mad rush.
No, yeah, I think so as well.
Let's do it when the time is right and everybody is healthy.
Yes.
And we hope you're fit and healthy today as well. And we have more wrestling news throughout the day at cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.